What is happening, everybody? Mike here. I am super pumped to be with you guys tonight. I am going to be presenting on a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, simply because what we're going to discuss had been absolutely life-changing for me, as well as my wife, Corey Beth, and so many of the clients that we've worked with. And so I am just really stoked to present this to many of you who are going to probably be hearing this for the first time. So as we're just getting going here, just going live, I'm going to give people an opportunity to hop on. If you're just getting on, do me a favor, give me a little wave, say hello in the comments, let me know that you are here. I'm going to pull this up so I can see exactly who is here as we're moving through this. All right, cool, guys. Awesome, awesome. Nancy, what's up? All right, guys, so let's get going here. All right, so what we're going to talk about for many is going to be a brand new view on fitness. And it's not just a new view, but it's something that's going to save you time as well as help get you better results. And that is ultimately what we are all here for, right? We all want to see better results. We want to know that the time that we're putting into our fitness is actually producing the results that we're after. And so with that being said, for those in our Pure Physique community, right, those are part of our Pure fam, some of this may not be new in terms of the concept, but I've probably never gone as deep as I'm going to go tonight on some of the approach, the strategy, and the reasoning behind the things that we do. And I always think it's important for people to understand, the why behind things, because when you do, then it makes much more sense. And then you're much more apt to actually follow through on the things that you need to be doing. So with that being said, let's kind of start in the beginning. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what I was taught. And for me, I was taught that if you wanted greater results, you had to do more exercise. Anybody else given this advice? Of course you have. Everybody has, right? And even if you hadn't, most of us inherently believe that this is the way to do it. We simply believe that doing more is going to be better for us. And oftentimes we associate the more work with hard work. And we do this simply because we don't know any better. But what I learned was that this approach has limitations. And the biggest limitation of them all is me. Now, when I say me, I don't mean it's because I lack any discipline or dedication on my part. In fact, when I first began getting into fitness, I had plenty of that, plenty of discipline, plenty of dedication. I loved being at the gym. I mean, that was my hobby. That was my release. And I know it's the same for many of you. But what I mean by I was a limitation is that there were some physical limitations to what my body could tolerate over the long term. Now, just think about that for a second. What my body could tolerate over the long term. Because we're going to circle around to that. And you're going to see that for many of you, part of the reason why you may not have been seeing the results that you've been after is because you haven't established what your body can actually tolerate. And without that understanding, it's really hard to be able to predict when it's time to back off or when it's time to go harder. And when you can reasonably predict those things, that's when your results themselves become far more predictable. So the deal is that physical limitation of mine is the case for all of us, right? For many, we might not be limited by what we're willing to do, although maybe some of us are, right? There's only an extent to how hard we'll actually try to strip this fat off or how much we're willing to give up to get that body of our dreams. But for the most part, for most of us, there's not really a limit. We're willing to put in the work. That's not the hard part. But we are limited by what our bodies can physically recover from. And that's why program design and execution matter so much. Because you can be doing plenty of exercise. And I know people that do, but they're doing the wrong kind of exercise. You can do plenty of the right exercise, but do it wrong. And you can also be doing a lot of the right exercise wrong, and in each case, you're going to hinder your progress. So what do I mean by that? Well, most people don't establish exactly what type of training is necessary in order to get the results that they want. So I'm going to drop a little hint for you. Resistance training pretty much covers it all. So whether or not your primary objective is to improve your conditioning, to just have greater overall fitness, to look better naked, to drop a few pounds, resistance training has to be at the core of what you do. So if you're not even starting with the right type of exercise, you've already severely limited your ability to win. So we don't want to do that. But then you do have those individuals who know enough to pick up the weights, but they go in and they do it so haphazard, so wrong. And then they're wondering why they're spending all of this time underneath the bar, pumping their legs, and not seeing any change in their body. And that's because their execution is completely off and the structure of their program is incorrect. And so we need to get this right. This is huge. Because when you do any of these things consistently over time, right, wrong, or the right thing being done wrong, at some point you're going to plateau. And then you eventually regress. Now, let me ask a question. Does this feel familiar to any of you? Can anybody here relate? Go ahead and just drop it in the comments, pop that hand up. I mean, seriously, guys, like that is one thing that I know people time and time again come to us telling us that they're so frustrated by, that they're putting in this time but not seeing the result. And I see already we're having some epiphanies and some breakthroughs. So, and I'm going to get into those questions about how to apply within age groups, weights, cardio, all that stuff. We'll touch on a little bit of that, although some of it might be outside the scope of what we're talking about tonight. But anyway, I want you guys to stick with me for the next several minutes because we're going to get really, really deep on this. So first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the point of diminishing returns. And I am cannot even believe I put this picture up myself, but I needed to highlight a point, all right? So reaching the stage where we plateau or regress, despite how much exercise we do, right? This is what we call the point of diminishing returns. And this is the point that, this is what it looked like for Corey Beth and myself. This was our point of diminishing returns. However, in this case, a picture is not worth 1,000 words. And the way it showed up for each of us was completely different. So I'm going to touch on that now. And I feel like now is a good time to change the screen here and start highlighting some of this stuff. So here's the deal. For me, I had at this point already been training for 9 straight years. And I was weightlifting 5 to 7 days a week for 60 to 90 minutes at a time. And while for all intents and purposes, as a young 22-year-old guy in this picture, I may not look all that bad, at least to some others, maybe so. But I want to put in perspective that at this point, I had put in 162,000 minutes in the gym. And this was the absolute best I could achieve. Now, you would think after putting that much time into this, I look like I belong on the cover of Men's Fitness magazine. At least that's what I thought. But here's what you can't see underneath the body at this point. I was physically broken. Physically broken. I was suffering with sciatica to the point that I could not walk without my legs buckling underneath me. I had a busted rotator cuff. Lifting was painful. I could not lift my right arm over my head without it being in pain. Nobody should feel that way between the ages of 20 and 22 years old. I had persistent knee, elbow, and wrist pain. Again, it was just, to me, I felt like, that's just the price you pay to try to look good. And then I also had limited mobility in my neck, which was due in part to athletics up to that point as well. But still, you would think that with all the exercise, all the taking care of my body, that I would be in better shape than this. And the crazy thing is that at 22, I was physically tired all the time. I mean, I would finish training and I would sleep. I would sleep in late most mornings if I didn't have to go to work. And, my schedule, probably like a lot of 22-year-olds, I mean, those of you, who've been there before, you know what I'm talking about. You don't live like a normal schedule, but all of this ties together to putting in so much time, so much energy, so much effort, and not getting what you stepped into the gym to achieve. All right, so now let's talk about my lovely wife, Corey Beth. So this was Corey Beth after several years of working out twice a day, doing mainly cardio for 45 minutes at a clip, with a little bit of light lifting mixed in because she didn't want to become bulky, right? And all her exercise was in an attempt to look healthy and look sexy, right? But at this point, she was 30 pounds heavier than she is today. And though she was trying with 2-a-day cardio sessions, the scale would not budge. And then on top of that, she suffered with IBS. She was diagnosed as narcoleptic. I mean, who in their mid-20s is diagnosed as being narcoleptic? Later found out it wasn't narcolepsy, it was her diet. Sugar crashes, right? It's crazy. And yet all this exercise, it couldn't put her into a healthy enough condition to not be able to handle a little bit of sugar. She also had cystic hormonal acne, and well, like myself, she was constantly tired all the time. But things changed, guys. Things changed. And this is literally what we look like today. Let me just pick up my little controller here that I dropped. This is literally what we look like today. And I'm not showing you our best ever shape, like when we competed as a natural bodybuilder and Corey Beth was a figure competitor. I'm showing you the real time, real life us. But the cool thing is that everything we did training wise to reach those peaks is the same thing that we do today. The only difference was a far more stringent nutrition plan. That was it. That's the only thing that changed between standing on stage and not standing on stage, and just standing like we are today. Just being a little tighter with the nutrition, but the training never changed. And in that time, guys, we did not spend more than 2 hours exercising in an entire week. But here's the cool thing. As much as the changes in our body were awesome, I would say what's even better is how we feel. So there is no more sciatica. There is no shoulder, knee, elbow, wrist, or neck pain. You know, for Corey Beth, there's no more narcolepsy, the IBS, or cystic acne. And she lost the 30 pounds and has maintained it. And both of us have a ton of energy. I mean, today at 43, like I will run circles around that 22-year-old that we saw back there. Like, it's crazy, guys, but that's the difference when you get this stuff nailed down. And so the difference between then and now is we started training smarter and we started training less. That's right, less. Let that sink in for a moment. For me, there is a 21-year difference between those two pictures. For Corey Beth, about 11-year difference. And in that span of time, fitness competitions in all, we have not trained more than 2 hours in an entire week. Oh, and no cardio, except for an experiment I once did. That's it, because it's unnecessary. Not when you get things nailed down properly. So this is pretty crazy. I just wanted to do the little side-by-side comparison here, all right? On the left, 162,000 minutes over a 9-year span versus half the amount, 81,000 minutes over double the year span, an 18-year span. And the difference. The first one was the attitude that the majority of individuals take. You begin an exercise program because you believe that you're going to exercise your way into the body that you want. And then you get frustrated when it doesn't happen. You put in all of this time, all of this energy, all of this effort, and you still don't have the body that you want. Because your mentality is not set up to achieve that goal because you're putting your focus and your energy in the wrong place. Now, compare that with my 40-year-old self in this picture. Half the time, guys. half the time over double the year span. And the only difference was I'm going to train smarter and I'm going to eat better. I'm going to learn how to get this nailed down. And that's exactly what I did. That's what Corey Beth did. That's what our clients do. So you're probably wondering, how is that even possible? So the answer is going to lie in two words: stress physiology. Now, don't jump off this thing yet, all right? Based on the fact that I put this in larger fonts, that I italicized it and underlined it, you might guess that this is pretty important. So the secret behind our success and the success of our clients who, like us, typically train no more than 90 minutes a week stems from our understanding and implementation of stress physiology. All right. So who would like to hear more about this? Do me a favor. If you guys want to hear more about this, I don't care if you're watching it on replays, like show me some love, drop some stuff in the comments. Like, let me know that you guys want to know a little bit more about this, because this stuff is about to get so sexy. I think you guys are going to love this. All right. You guys ready? All right, let's do this. Let's jump a little bit deeper into this. All right. So here's the deal, guys. Your body is like this pitcher of water. All right. The pitcher of water can only hold so much water. And in the same way, your body can only hold a certain amount of energy and resources. It only has a certain amount of this energy and resources available to perform all of your physical functions and activities, as well as recover from them. So how does this relate to our exercise? Well, I am glad you asked. Because, for example, when you walk into the gym, you are walking into the gym with 100% of the strength and energy that you have in that very moment. So that is what's represented right here when we're looking at this picture. But when you start training, you begin to deplete those resources. So with every repetition, with every set, with every minute that passes by, you are depleting all of the resources that your body needs, not just to carry out your exercise, but to recover from it. But on top of that, those are the same resources that your body is using to fend off disease, to fend off sickness, to recover from the stress of your children, or if you're a student, the stress of midterm exams, or if you're under work pressure. It's all the same resources that our body's using. All right, so I want to pause right there for just one moment. All right, so here's the deal, guys. There are two parts to recovery. Now stick with me here, and this is where you might want to take some notes. All right, two parts. Part number one is what we call compensation. Compensation is simply replenishing all of the resources that were lost. So that means when we go from it's 40 back up to 100, that is compensation. And again, I'm just using a hypothetical example here, guys. These are not hard numbers. I hope everybody caught on to that, right? So again, you start off with 100, you hypothetically deplete 60% of your resources, you got 40 left over, okay? Compensation is simply you just replenish what had been depleted. Now, the second part is the one that we really want to pay attention to. So the second part of recovery is what's called overcompensation, AKA this is where the gains happen. And what overcompensation is, this is when you actually don't just recover your resources, but you have an expansion in your ability to hold more resources. So many of you could view this as, an increase in muscle. You could view it as an improvement in your conditioning. You can view it as an increase in strength. Like any one of those things are an indicator that your body has overcompensated for the stress that has been placed on your body. Let me just stop right there for a second too, because here's the one thing that people have a really hard time understanding, and this is important for you guys to get this clear. Exercise is a stress. It is a negative stress on your body. And I know it makes you feel good physically, mentally, emotionally. You get all those endorphins going right after you're finished with your workout, right? But it's still a negative stress on your body because it is depleting resources. So we have to make sure that we are taking that into consideration when we are making our decisions. All right, so back to overcompensation. So this is where the gains happen. This is where like our muscle goes from like this size to that size, right? There's a little bit of an increase, a small percentage increase. And the thing is though, now that that muscle is a little bit larger, guess what? It could also hold more resources. But here's another mistake that people make. When their muscle gets larger, that actually means it's going to take longer for that muscle to recover. So many of you, and I'm going to get into the crazy vicious cycle that many of you have gotten yourself into, but many people get themselves into this cycle where they made the gains that they were looking for, but then they fail to maintain them because they're not keeping up with the new demands. They're not keeping up with the recovery demands that they need. So this is where most of the problem lies for people. It's during the recovery process. And you've probably heard before, people say things like, you don't grow muscle in the gym, grow it when you're resting. But the thing is that their view on rest is, oh, well, I trained this muscle and I'm resting that, but they're not resting from exercise overall. So here's the deal. This is what it looks like for most people. Let's go back to that example, right? We just put you through a workout, you depleted 60% of your resources, and now you begin that recovery process. And so now, over the next 24 hours, let's say, you regain 40% of that. So now you're at 80. Cool. But then what happens? Decide, I'm going to go back to the gym the next day. And then boom, you deplete your resources. And then just as you're starting to recover, you deplete them again. And most people put themselves through this vicious cycle where they've stacked so much exercise on top of itself that they never get a chance to fully recuperate. Not just compensate, but overcompensate. So if you're living in this compensation phase and never graduate to overcompensation, you're not only going to feel stuck, you are going to be stuck. And as if it couldn't get more frustrating, there's a second problem. Getting the results that you want also requires the right stimulus. So if your workouts are not intense enough, then the stimulus won't be strong enough to make your body change. So here's the deal. There is a framework to all of this. There is a framework to getting the results that we want. It involves, first and foremost, choosing the right form of exercise. So we know we're going to choose resistance training as our primary means of exercise because almost regardless of the objective, it's going to cover it. It's going to cover it. But the thing is, too, we need to focus on the quality of execution. So as we said early on, there are many people who will choose the right form of exercise. They will choose to do resistance training. However, their execution of it is so poor that they never produce the result that they're looking for. And that's because the intensity of their exercise is not high enough. And this is what I mean by the stimulus. You see, guys, exercise is the stimulus to building greater strength, to building greater muscle tone, to having an increase in your metabolism. It's all built into this one form of exercise. However, if you're going to approach it the way Corey Beth had early on, which is, I'm just going to do some light lifting so that I don't bulk up, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be wasting time lifting. You're going to be wasting your time being on that side of the gym because you're not giving your body, the muscles, the stimulus that they actually need, which is an intense one. This means pushing your muscles to a point of momentary muscular fatigue. In other words, what nobody ever likes to hear from me, but I'm going to say it anyway, is training to muscular failure. In the gym, your success when it comes to resistance training comes from pushing your muscles to failure. So if the intensity of the exercise is not strong enough, your muscles have no reason to develop. I mean, you've probably heard the saying before, It's got to challenge you in order to change you. And it's true. It's not any more true than in any place than in exercise. If it's not challenging you, it's not going to change you. So if your intention is to go into the gym and do the work that you know you can do, then what reason does your body have to get any stronger, to develop any more, to improve your conditioning, to raise your metabolism so that when you are burning fat through proper nutrition, your body's better able to keep that fat off your body? I mean, that's another conversation altogether, guys, but I just cannot stress enough the importance of having intense workouts. But then the intense workout is not enough. So yes, you provide your body with the stimulus it needs, but now it needs time to compensate for that stress. Now, here's where people will get a little confused, a little lost. So let me break this down. Because I know that for some of you, maybe it's because of your schedule. Maybe it's because you like to exercise. You're wondering like, well, wait, what happens if I like to exercise, every day? It's going to get a point where you're going to be caught in that loop. And unfortunately, you're never going to reach that phase of overcompensation. But you will keep compensating. You will keep getting to the point where your body can perform the same work. And so your level of improvement will not go beyond a certain point, but it's probably not going to drop off either unless you are being excessive with how much exercise you're doing. However, compensation from exercise, even if you have to train on back-to-back days, let's say, I know not everybody could do the Monday, Wednesday, Friday split or the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and that's okay. What we need for compensation to occur is just enough time overall. So instead of looking at it through the lens of what's going on between Monday and Sunday, we need to look at it through the lens of what does it look like over the course of a month, several months, a year. Do I give my body enough opportunity and chances to compensate for that exercise stress? And if you do, great, because then that brings us to the next part, which is overcompensation from that stress, which means that you are just giving yourself that little bit extra to give your body the room that it needs to make those improvements, instead of wanting to go back into the gym or thinking that you must go back in the gym and knocking yourself down, literally cutting off your progress at the knees. You've heard the saying before, like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Well, this is a prime example of exactly that. You got to give your body that chance to overcompensate. Now, for some people, that also just may mean that the way you structure your year looks a little different. So maybe you do like to be on a particular routine. You like to remain pretty steady. You want things to be regular, but you have that 2-week vacation to take. So if you're always giving your body just enough time to at least compensate from the stress, and then you give yourself that 2 weeks where maybe you're going to be good with your nutrition while you're on vacation, but you're going to abstain from exercise. Or just randomly throughout the year, you take a week off or 2 weeks off. That is the time that you need to overcompensate. And this, what drove this point home for me specifically was that I was a athlete growing up. And when I was in college, I was playing lacrosse. And what would happen is during the season, I would not give up. Listen, I was the consummate gym rat. As I told you before, in there 60 to 90 minutes, 5 to 7 days a week. And it did not matter if it was in the middle of the season. Like that was my dedication because the gym was my life. And so what I realized though was that during that span of time where I was playing lacrosse, I would hit a ceiling. Like I couldn't get my strength over a certain point. But then what happened is every single summer for 4 years, I went and I coached at a camp. And while I was away at that camp, there was no opportunity to train, zero. But what happened next was amazing because from the time that I left for that camp to the time that I finally got back in the gym, although I had a lot of anxiety about the fact that it had been 8 to 10 days, I always went back in stronger, always, without exception. And that's because unknowingly, I finally gave my body the opportunity it needed to overcompensate for all the stress that had compounded over the course of the year. So now just taking that and scaling it and understanding like, wait, if I can get a stronger stimulus from doing less work, I don't need 5 hours a week to get the stimulus. I could get it in 90 minutes a week or in under 2 hours a week. And now I have all this extra time for my body to compensate for that stress. Well, chances are I'm also giving it enough time to overcompensate for it. And that was the change for me. So when I show you those pictures, guys, of like how I looked at 22 versus how I looked at 40 and now at 43, the difference is I let go of this idea that I had to keep exercising my way to the results that I wanted to get and started to understand the science, which might not be sexy to some of you guys. To me, I absolutely love it. As you can tell, like I'm passionate about this. I absolutely 100% love studying this stuff. And the hardest thing for me was to make that shift from, well, wait a second, being in the gym is part of my identity. But what do I want more? To be the guy in the gym or to be the guy that gets the results that I want from the gym? And that for many of you is going to be the same decision that you have to make. Because if you are a gym rat, then chances are you probably hit a sticking point. Chances are you've hit that sticking point and you're wondering, what else can I do? Because I do not have any more time to invest into this. And then there is so much hope for those of you on the other side who feel like, gosh, if I really want to get into the shape that I want to, it seems overwhelming to me because I'm going to have to put in all of this time, when in fact you don't. The only thing you need to do is choose the right type of exercise. You need to execute it properly. You need to execute it intensely. You need to recover from it and then give yourself enough time to overcompensate for it and actually see the fruits of your labor. Because anything less than doing that is throwing crap against the wall and hoping it sticks. And that is what we see from so many people, is that they're just trying and trying and trying and just throwing more and more and more out there. They're going from weight training to the Peloton to yoga to Pilates to boot camp to Orange Theory, and they got to try all these things thinking the next thing is going to be the answer when it's not. It never is. And people try it all the time, and then they return to us going, okay, I had this right the last time. Maybe I got to focus a little bit harder on my nutrition. Again, that's for another time. But when it comes to the exercise component of this, guys, don't overwhelm yourselves. And if you're currently overwhelming yourself, take a breath, because you have an opportunity to do it better and to get better results and to save yourself time in the process. And I know this just because we've been there and our clients have been there, so we get it. And again, most of them, like us, have gone from that 45 hours of exercise a week to under 2 hours. And they're getting better results. So if you are tired of second guessing yourself, I want you to hop on a strategy call with us, either myself or with Corey Beth. It's really easy. You can simply just go to purephysique.as.me/strategy or just drop a yes, please in the comments, and we will jump on a call, guys. It's a free call, free strategy call to figure out what it is that you need to be doing differently in order to get different results. Because if you don't change anything, then nothing's going to change. So with that being said, I hope you guys took a lot out of this tonight. I had a lot of fun putting this together, and take it and use it, guys. Use it, because everybody here deserves better results. And if we can help you to see those, then 100%, we would love to be part of that process. So if you get a chance, you can also share this with a friend, invite them into the group. We love seeing this community building up, and it's just giving us more and more opportunity to help more people and to expand our reach and help to get the right exercise, the right nutrition into the hands of really good people who deserve more for themselves. So that being said, Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your evening, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.